Indeed.
With the power of bonds.
So many bonds.
All right, so what are we talking about today?
Today we are talking about the Red Ranger becomes an adventurer in another world.
You know, we just finished this, and I was gonna, let's just do the show tomorrow, but I started talking about how I felt about it, and it's like, you know what, we should just record this now.
Yeah.
You want to give like a kind of a little synopsis of what the show is?
Yeah, so it is an isekai. For any of you who love Power Rangers, imagine a Power Rangers show where your Red Ranger, after a huge battle, gets sucked into another world. He's still got his Red Ranger powers there, but he doesn't have any of his team, but he has to help fight evil in this other world using his powers. In this case, the Red Ranger's powers are all reliant on bonds. And by that I mean like essentially like friendship and love and things like that. And so in order for his powers to actually work, he needs to form friendships, form bonds with people, and that makes everything that he does stronger. And so he uses that power. He meets different people. They get over their differences. They bond.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. This show is definitely for people that love these Sentai shows and anime.
Yeah, it's got some Power Rangers. It's got some Voltron. The other thing is though, in the same way that Mashal is kind of like a parody of like Harry Potter. This is very much a parody of those shows.
Yeah.
When I first heard about it, I wasn't sure if it was going to be like Galaxy Quest,
Right.
like where it was going to be. He's not actually a ranger, like he's just a ranger on Red Ranger on TV.
Yeah.
But no, it's a world. He comes from a world where like Power Rangers really exist. So he is one of those rangers.
Yeah, and you're so pumped right now, and that's kind of as pumped as the main character is throughout the entire show, which I think maybe is part of the reason why I'm a little lukewarm on this show. I feel like what I love about Isekai is, generally speaking, it's a person from our world, generally like a teenager or a young person, and they come to this world and they sort of have to rise to the occasion, and they sort of develop powers, and there's like this whole like outsider like that is like us, the viewer, into this new world. This is not this at all. This is like a super extra guy from an already outlandish universe falling into another outlandish universe.
Yeah.
I think that's like the main thing that sort of threw me off about this show, is I felt like it was like a hat on a hat.
I get that, but I think it works as a parody,
Yeah.
And I think,
it does.
I think we would both appreciate that more if we had watched Power Rangers as kids.
Yeah.
I think, for anyone that loved Power Rangers as a kid, like, you're gonna get so much out of this show. But even without that, like, there were so many times where we were just cracking up. Like,
there were a lot of funny moments.
A lot of like real like laugh out loud moments.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. And the thing is, I don't want to be like negative. Like, it's not that I didn't like the show. It's just like, I think when it comes, I had the same sort of problem with My Dear Friend, Anoka-tan. There's like a very specific type of humor I like. Like, I like One Punch Man. Mashal. And I generally like all the humor that's in the traditional sort of shonen stuff we like Naruto, One Piece, Black Clover. But those shows are awesome by themselves, with action, with drama. So when it's something that's more jokey, I get really particular, One of my favorite isekai that is just pretty much jokey all the time is Campfire Cooking. But I think, once again, it's because
your main character,
it's a guy.
You can relate.
Yeah.
No, I think the thing is that like there are a lot of really funny moments.
Yeah.
But as a whole, you don't get as much out of it.
Yeah.
Because your main character doesn't have to learn to use powers. He doesn't have to learn to appreciate things. Like you said, he is pumped all the time. Like he's teaching lessons about bonds to everyone else, and it's all about like friendship and stuff, and that's great. But yeah, the whole thing is very extra.
It's very easy. Like, almost everything happens so easy for him. And I understand, well, in Isekai, that's part of it, where they're OP, but it's like, but there's always a challenge, and the challenge is usually, like, understanding this new world, or figuring out how their powers work, like, the wrong way to use healing magic, for instance. The main character was under a lot of different stress to try to learn how to use this stuff, and with this, I feel like it's like, he is already OP from this world with all this stuff. But that being said, there's a lot of humor that's really good. You kind of hit it on the head for me earlier. I feel like if I was a big fan of Power Rangers as a kid, I would love this show, because so much of the humor is completely based on poking fun at that genre.
Well, I mean, like, every time that he changes into his red persona, like,
Yeah.
he does all this, like, posing, and,
Yeah.
and then an explosion happens behind him, and it's not just for show, it's an actual explosion, and if there's someone behind him, they get blown up by the explosion. And, oh my god, there's this great thing in the first or second episode where he and a bunch of other people, they use this weapon that he brings, you know, and when they use it and are successful, they are all posing, and the other people are going, why are we posing?
Yeah.
Oh my god,
well,
it's so funny.
It was funny too, because that was in like the second or third episode, and I remember it got a little dark, and I was like, oh cool, this show's gonna have like dark elements. And then they just kind of like went by it. And I think that was my thing, is like, you know, we've still been watching Black Clover.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of like Naruto and One Piece, and I feel like when they want to be silly, they want to be silly. When they want to be dark, they want to be dark. I feel like this show, like, almost never could get too dark. I actually loved the finale of this.
Yeah.
Like, the final episode was awesome because it was, like, actually dark.
But again, I compare this to Mashal, where Mashal doesn't really get dark.
Yeah.
You know, it's the same thing. And because we can relate more to the things in Mashal, because we have more of a things that we loved that you know, go with that.
Yeah.
It's different than this, where we don't have the connection to what it's, you know, what it's parodying.
Yeah.
I found it so entertaining, and
you know, and I think you really liked this a lot more than I did,
because I just got so much joy out of watching it.
Yeah.
You know, that being said, you know, it's not gonna be like one of my favorites. It's not gonna be like one of my top anime.
Yeah.
But I had so much fun watching it, and there are not many anime that we watch where I'm actually laughing out loud.
I agree with that. And there were a few moments where I was laughing out loud. I think, though, for me, I found it amusing, but I didn't like some anime. I like every episode. I'm like, I love it.
Yeah.
And I like can't wait. Like Solo Leveling this year, I was like, I remember the one thing about Solo Leveling this year, and it's not fair to compare it, but I'm just giving you the idea of how I feel with a lot of anime. I remember when watching Solo Leveling, I would be like, oh no, there's only like half of this episode left. I'm bummed out.
Yeah.
With this, I was kind of like, is the episode over yet? Because I felt like, once again, it was like my dear friend Nogatan. It's like, it's the same jokes over and over again, and I don't love the main character, and I don't love any of these characters really. There was things I liked. I liked that he and Logi had that sort of like Naruto Sasuke thing, or even more so like the Deku Bakugo thing. I enjoyed that. I enjoyed the things like the marriage beam gun.
Oh my God, yeah.
I love that he could use his big Voltron creature thing, and that like people would just appear there they made bonds with and be confused.
Yeah.
I thought that was great. There was just some really funny moments. And some weird stuff too. They would fall into different tropes. And like the last 4 episodes, in this sort of like desert, it's almost like Alabasta in One Piece. This elf woman, she's like some version of like Black Panther meets Yu-Gi-Oh!
For sure.
And I loved that. And I love, and even when the bad guy, they were very clear. One of the bad guys had like a grimoire almost, and he had it like, you know, like the card thing in Yu-Gi-Oh! And so it's like, I get that, and I like that, and I enjoy that.
I like that you mentioned that it goes into a lot of tropes, but it also calls out all those tropes, which like is really funny. I mean, that's the thing. I totally agree with you on that. You know, we're watching an episode, and you know, when we finish it, I'm not like, oh boy, next episode.
The next one.
I definitely was more like, oh, you know, it'll be great when we get finished with this, so we can get back to Black Clover, or we can get, you know, but at the same time, I was enjoying every episode, and I don't know, there was so much fun happening.
Yeah, no. And I feel bad because part of maybe the reason why I'm also so serious about this is, you know, the last few episodes, we've liked everything so much, I'm like, do we just come on here and just like everything, and we never critique anything?
Well, no, we critique things, but there's always a positive to find in things.
We did sort of critique the Kaiju number 8 movie pretty hardcore.
But it's kind of our thing to find nice things about, you know?
Yeah.
There's something to love. Somebody is going to love things. And like we've said a few times already, if you were a fan of Power Rangers, like, you're going to get so much out of this. You're going to find so much humor in the things that they're parodying. And they also, parody other anime. You know, we're watching it and we're like, oh my god, that's like in that anime.
Yeah.
Or that, you know, like you said, Yu-Gi-Oh! And other things like that. And there's so much fun there.
Yeah, and you know, and I feel bad now because maybe I was a little too critical about it in places because, you know, like, if you're just working a normal job and just want, like, a funny, cute thing to watch, like, it's good. Like, it's always kind of funny and cute. Some of the action is really cool. I just felt like I never was concerned about the characters at all. Because, once again, it was like, it's meant to be funny. Which I will say, Mashal wasn't that way. Mashal was almost like DBZ, where I was afraid all of his friends would almost die all the time.
Yeah.
Not Mashal.
Yeah.
The joke is that Mashal's One Punch Man and he can't die. But his little friends, I was like, oh no.
I think the problem is that we have things like Mashal to compare it to.
Yeah.
And Mashal was one where, even though it was like a comedy, a parody, we'd watch an episode and be like, oh man, I can't wait for the next episode.
I also think the problem is that we've seen too many isekai. Like, for me now, the bar's so high.
Yeah.
Like, between, like, Tsukimichi Moonlit Fantasy, Campfire Cooking...
Zenshu was so unique.
Zenshu was great. Like,
but I appreciate the uniqueness of this, you know, at least.
Right.
I think it did something very different.
Yeah.
And it did it in a very comedic way. And I appreciate that.
Yeah.
But it doesn't... As storytelling, it doesn't live up to a lot of the other ones that we've watched.
I think my other issue with it too, and you know, this one's totally personal and has nothing to do with this show, so it's not anything against the show, is I loved Go-Go Loser Ranger.
Oh, yes.
So I'm definitely in the camp of, like, wanting to see evil Power Rangers.
Yeah. Not
necessarily as interested in, like, Power Rangers that act exactly like Power Rangers, but we're making fun of how intense and extra they are. I love the Red Ranger in Go-Go Loser Ranger.
Yeah.
He's totally Homelander from The Boys. And I feel like that's kind of where I'm at right now with my Sentai stuff. So to see one that's so unabashedly, like, both a love letter and a bit of a knock on it, I was sort of like, okay, well, what's this? I also have to state, like, you know, this is, take it or leave it. The show's 14 plus. Yeah. It's very pervy. Yeah. It's very pervy. I kind of feel like maybe it should be like 15 plus or 16 plus, but that's just me.
Yeah, well, I mean, a lot of it is done for comedy, but you're right. It does get, like awkwardly sexual.
Yeah. Not, like, to, like, a really offensive... It's not, like, The Seventh Son.
No.
But I was just like, oh, wow. Like, they're definitely going there.
Yeah. If you're looking for an anime to watch just to enjoy, have fun, watch one episode, and then go off and do your other things, and then, like, another day come back and watch another episode, I think it's good for that kind of thing.
Yeah.
You're gonna be entertained. You're gonna be laughing during the episode when you watch it, but you're not going to feel like, oh my god, I need to watch every episode right now.
Yeah, but I actually felt like the stuff that I liked the most was the bad guys that the Rangers fought in the real world was really funny, because they were all like, what were they, like the relationship enders or something like that? And they were always trying to destroy the bonds between people. It's like so childish, it's so funny. Yeah. And I thought that was really great. And one of the things they would do when he would have a flashback is they would like basically show a part of an episode of that show, and it would be like, you know, like something episode 17, and I thought that was really funny. Which again,
it's a weird that it's not a Galaxy Quest kind of thing, because all those are like episodes, but they're not. They were real things that happened in his real life.
Yeah, I mean, because, you know, as we've kind of circled a bunch of times, like, this show is clearly for people that grew up with those Sentai anime shows who love that format and are sort of interested in, like, you know, being like the Office version, like poking fun at it a little bit, you know? Yeah. Because I did all this stuff with him and the other Rangers where they even point out the fact that he's too much, that Red is too much. He just runs into battle. Like, I loved that stuff. I thought that stuff was really funny. And I almost kind of wish and that's kind of my issue with that. It was like, that stuff I like the most. The Isekai stuff I didn't like as much, but I like Isekai stuff. And so I was just like, whoa, my head was like scrambled while watching it.
Well, the best part about the Isekai stuff was just the people like reacting to him and reacting to the weirdness of the situations and reacting to the weirdness of, again, like I said, why am I posing? You know? Why are we in this giant machine?
One thing that I did like because as much as I was like, oh, it's the same joke, sometimes when it's the same joke, it's really funny. Every time he transformed and there was an explosion behind him and people would fly.
So good.
That was really good. That was I really liked, For me, it was a mixed bag. Yeah.
I agree.
Anna loved it.
No,
obviously, it's her favorite show of the year.
No, I 100% agree with you, but I think I needed something to just like make me laugh, and like it was the perfect thing to actually make me laugh.
Yeah, and I've never found an isekai that I very much disliked, because I do enjoy that subgenre very much. But I do feel like, just the Power Ranger thing is just not my jam.
Yeah.
It just really isn't. All right, guys, well, thanks so much for watching. Please like and subscribe. Anna, what's the question?
Who is your favorite Power Ranger?
Wow. Who's the one with the flute?
Oh.
He's definitely my favorite. He had a flute. I mean, you can't go wrong. So I'm saying. All the greats had a flute.
Link has an ocarina. Is that a flute?
It's like practically a flute. Yeah. Okay, cool. All right, guys. Bye.